Hello, welcome to the Path Pavers podcast. This week we are going to do something a little bit different. So, my name is Chloe M. You guys haven't heard my voice on here before, but I am the better half, arguably, of creative hiring. Just kidding. Cody's great. But we are business partners. We have this fabulous business called Creative Hiring, and that's what really inspired the Path Pavers podcast. We get to work with a lot of Path Pavers through our business. And today we are going to talk about one experience that we had while working where we actually ended up losing a six-figure client, which sounds like it sucks, and it really did. We were not stoked on it. But kind of going through that process and reflecting and understanding the takeaways were really one of the greatest business lessons that we've learned so far. So Cody's going to jump on here with me, and we're going to give you guys a little bit of an insight. Hopefully it resonates for other people that are going through this as well. We don't ever want anybody on the entrepreneurial journey to feel lonely, because we know that it is a long, lonely road. And we just wanted to show kind of the other side of things today. It's not all roses and happiness and Instagram posts. So, will you, for our audience, because obviously we very intricately understand what happened in this instance, can you give a quick overview of this project, how we got it, how we got out of it, what happened, and then we can kind of go over our takeaways from the situation?
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep it like mystique on purpose, obviously, because I don't really, I'm not. It's not like sensitive, but it's out of respect for everybody involved, and we want to talk about like the lessons learned from something that probably happens to everybody, right? Like so the mystiqueness of it's on purpose, and it's just not like really important. So, I had a friend who met an individual upon a conversation. He needed help, and the help he needed was the services that we provide. Upon connecting, we spent a lot of time together, and we believed that we had similar philosophies and values and morals. And I think that's always important when we get into especially like a people-driven project. After a few conversations, he decided that we were the right partner for him, and we started working together. And then after a month of us, I think, making great headway and doing a lot of really cool creative things, he all of a sudden, out of literally nowhere, got cold feet, and we got an email at 3 a.m. We had called to talk to him at 7 a.m. We rearranged our schedule to meet at 10 a.m. And then in that meeting, he decided that he wasn't comfortable with what we were doing. And so we exited the partnership after 3 or 4 weeks of like a lot of groundwork and planting seeds in a way to and what I took away is that I think we were making something that was always a dream and something like fun to play with in your dreams more of a reality. And I think he was getting cold feet, and I think part of getting cold feet was removing us from continuing to maybe push him down the path of doing what he said he was going to do, like holding him accountable. I don't know. That's just my quick overview and take from it, trying to be as mystic as possible.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys kind of understand a little bit more now. It was a big project. We were building out an entire team. Obviously, we are in the people business. We get it. People are variable, and there's always going to be wild cards. You cannot control other people, unfortunately. But we get that, and we love it. We love people. We love working with interesting people. That's why we do what we do. So, my first takeaway from working on this project with this particular client was I really feel that we undervalued ourselves. So, Cody and I, to be real transparent with you guys, we were charging about $200,000. We were building out a team of around 10 people for this project. So, a lot of people are going to be like, oh my God, you guys, that sounds like an insane amount of money. If you look within this space at what people are actually paying for services that are not even at our caliber, especially in terms of like traditional recruiting agencies and staffing, that's a steal. And even when we initially went to go sit down and like quote the project out, we were like, okay, we should be more like in the 350 range. We really, really loved this guy. We thought he had a great story. We felt very personally connected to him. And so we're like, you know what? We can come down. We want him to feel comfortable with this. You know, again, being fully transparent, we don't charge a lot of money up front. We don't want you to pay for anything until we deliver. It's not a money grab thing for us. So when we decided to quote him, we were like, you know, we feel really personally connected to this guy. We feel like we want to work with him. We can work within a budget that he feels comfortable with. That was, I would say, our fault for undervaluing ourselves, for ignoring the fact that we knew how much time this was going to take, how intricate the process was. We had all the metrics in front of us to understand bare bones what we can do this project for, and we chose to ignore that. And so, even when you are working with these really high ticket projects or things that you feel like, oh my God, this is such a large amount of money, you need to value yourself. You need to understand what you're bringing to the table. If it has to be broken down into logic for you, because I live in the land of logic, I have a background in accounting. It's like, let's look at how much money and revenue this single hire is going to bring this business over the next year. And then look at this tiny piece that we're taking to find you this person that's going to work for your business, that's going to stick around, that's going to generate revenue for you. So if you need to frame it like that, there's a billion different ways to do it, but don't undervalue yourself.
I would agree. I think that's lesson one for like I always had this idea that like I would if I had, all the money in the world, would I do this project for free? And in my head I was like, yes. Um but by devaluing what you can do, I don't think it sends the right message or sets up the right relationship in a way. I don't know if it's like a level of respect or appreciation. I always feel that we're super transparent with pricing. We're super transparent with everything. Because I feel like that's the way to be. Um, but in this case or scenario, we were so eager for the opportunity that we devalued ourselves. I think in a way, maybe subconsciously, he also devalued us.
I think
Maybe.
that's a great point, and I think it really leads into the next biggest takeaway for me is that when we set everything up, we tried to frame out, which this one is on us. I don't think we gave enough constraints around what to expect in this exact project. And so this led into a lot of hand holding, and this particular client wanted to be very involved in what we do, which great. When we work with clients, we get kind of like all over the board. Some people want to be really hands off. They're like, this is what you guys do, go do it. I just want to see the end product. And then sometimes people want to be a little bit more involved, whether they want to learn the actual process because they want to understand going forward, okay, how do I hire, which we love. We love to teach people how to fish. That's what we call it. Um, but this was a little bit more micromanagement. It wasn't coming from the space of, I want to learn this. That's why I'm being so on you guys. It was more coming from the side of, I need to know everything that's going on because I don't trust the process. And I think that when you are choosing to work with clients, they need to believe in your process. And if they don't, that's fine, but I don't think that they are the client for you. And I think as we learned with this particular instance, it's going to be more of a headache the longer you let it drag out.
I agree with it. My takeaway was a little different. I think he believed in the process. I don't think he like believed it could be done though. Like I believe in the process. I just don't think it can be done. But what I took away from it is that when he hired us, I think he was looking like, oh, I'm hiring employees, and it's like I'm not a fucking employee, right? Like you're hiring us to solve a challenge, to solve a problem. We'll be partners. We'll collaborate, but I'm not an employee. And I was like, I'm not your employee, right? I'm here to solve a very interesting problem and challenge with my expertise, point blank, period. And I think for me, that was the biggest error in our relationship. And I think you're spot on, though. And that's where like the micromanagement came and this and that. And I was like, why? you don't even understand it. Like, why would I provide you with all this documentation stuff when you don't get it? How is this of value to you? But to your point, he just wanted to see what was like a micromanagement babysitting aspect to it. And we know that one of the elements of good work is autonomy and self-directed teams. And when you start micromanaging, then that it starts to eliminate interesting or good work. And I think we got to a point where we were never gonna quit, right? We were like, we're both way too stubborn for that. But it got to a point where this work started to take a turn towards the end, where it was like, this doesn't feel the way it usually feels in our projects. Like we're almost like spending too much time showing him what we were doing or asking for permission to do the things that like we shouldn't actually have to ask permission or show. Like, we have a job to do, we're gonna go do it.
I agree. And I think this is something we learn the more clients we work with. We never look for red flags. That's not something that we do, but it's a lesson learned. It's a takeaway. And so now we kind of understand when we get that feeling, maybe this is going to be the outcome of that. So what's the trade-off for that? Is this a trade-off that's worth taking on when we work with clients? Is this something that is going to fit with our process? And really, ultimately, at the end of the day, everything we do is to set people up for success, both the business owners and the actual employees that we are providing them with. We want it to be a good, well thought out transaction for everybody. So those were probably my two biggest takeaways. I'm curious, Cody, what was your big takeaway from the situation?
My big takeaway was the and you brought this up, was I felt like we wanted it more than he did. And that was so weird because I felt like I came from a position where he was so doubtful and didn't have belief, and like there were times like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And I was like, because it's your dream, because you want to do this, right? Like, you've been working on this for X amount of years. Like, and I almost kind of kept having to talk him into it in a way. And if I want something more than you do, that seems to be, I want uh, a misalignment of partnership, because this is gonna be a hilarious analogy here, but I watched a movie called Mortal Kombat on Netflix the other day. And this it's funny because like growing up playing like Sega Genesis, like Mortal Kombat was like that go-to like fighting game. And I just put this on. I think I was just like organizing the blogs. So I just had it on the background because I was doing some like relatively easy work. And there's this one guy, he's able to like get the energy. So if someone hits him, he like gets the energy and then it's like powerful and it can hit them back. And I feel like when we work with path pavers or mavericks or people that inspire us, like I get that, and it fills me up and I start pumping. Like, I've had plenty of conversations at like 9 at night and they go till like 11 and I'm fired up because they're fired up, and I feed off of that. And with him, it felt like I was never getting that. I felt like I had to supply him with that energy or that incentives and like reassure him and reassure him. And while I was happy to do it, like I didn't feel like that was an issue, I was like, oh, well, this doesn't surprise me because he was waking up in the middle of the night stressed out. Like, he didn't have this like undying hope and belief that like I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna make it happen no matter what. Kind of like I've been working on a manuscript for 4 years, and it's like I've I've doubted myself. I've had imposter syndrome, but like I've never didn't have belief or hope that it was gonna get done. I was like, it's gonna get done one way or another. Like, the only way it doesn't get done is like if something unfortunately happens to me. But other than that, like, but for real, like I don't see how it can't get done because I've already decided that either it's gonna get completed, and I can't control if it's gonna be a bestseller or anything like that. I can just control how good of a job I do, right? And that's all I'm focusing on. And I'm not gonna stop until it's done, no matter what. You know what I mean? And I'll lose motivation or I'll lose whatever the case may be, but like quitting or stopping is never an option in my head. Now that's complicated because I do think there's some things that you should quit or stop because they're not no longer valuable, or maybe you're testing or trying something. Um, Perfect example is like whitewater rafting. I try that, I'll never do that again, and that story. So I just felt that he never really was fully committed to this. and I should not do projects or partnerships or collaborations with another individual that isn't fully committed to that project. And I think that's more like my personal disposition, um because I think I do my best work when I collaborate with someone that is like, yeah, we're gonna make this happen, like one way or another. I'm like, yeah, we are, one way or another, we're gonna make this happen. Like, there's problems are gonna happen, challenges are gonna happen, obstacles, barriers, like no shit, duh, like that is 100% gonna happen, but that's not gonna stop us. Like, we're gonna go. um and I just don't feel like he had that mentality. I think he was looking for a way out. I think he was constantly doubting it. I think he was constantly questioning it. I think he lacked hope and belief. And I don't think that's a way to do great things. I think you just kind of have to be a little delirious sometimes.
I agree. I think it's like, we talk about it as being a little bit naive when you're starting businesses because you can't look at things in such a serious manner because, like you said, it is a chaotic process. And I think what caught us off guard is we have dealt with employees, like people that we're hiring before, where we have maybe wanted it more than them. But working with a business owner where you feel like you want it more than them, we're not as familiar because, generally when we're working with people that are entrepreneurs or self-employed or own their own businesses, like they're fired up. It's a different type of person that is like, they want to be there. There's a reason that they work for themselves. And so we're not used to having to kind of put the feelers out to make sure that we understand, oh, this person does really want to be in business. Generally, when we have clients, they for sure want to be in business for themselves. So we don't even have to think about that. And I think that was something that, we can kind of take away. We do have to make sure that this is a viable business and in the long term that this owner wants to run this business, because another thing that we really believe in is not setting people up for failure. We don't ever want to place somebody in a position where they're not working for a viable business or something that's not going to open or that's not going to be around.
On the flip side, it really kicked us into gear to do things that we've been delaying to do, like start a podcast, do more social media stuff, which is really just social proof. I don't think like we were trying to be like an influencer. I know we're not trying to be an influencer, but what we're trying to do is provide enough evidence and value that what we're doing, we believe can help some people. I do not believe we have a universal solution for everybody. I don't believe, creative hiring's approach and structure is better than traditional hiring. I think it depends on the context of the situation and the environment and what you're looking for. I think traditional hiring makes a lot of sense in certain environments, in certain situations, and for certain people, but I don't think it's the only solution. And I think creative hiring is another viable option. It's that simple. And I think in this scenario, creative hiring was, I think, the right option for sure. Like, in this situation. So I think that fit from an environment context standpoint. I think it was the partnership that didn't fit. And for me, it was because he thought he was hiring employees, and that's just not what we are. But I also think that all of your points are really, really valuable and the main true, like, tangible takeaways. Because my point's more of like a feel. Like, I don't know if I'm right or wrong. That's just the way I felt. Yours are more tangible, and that's why you're the better half.
Well, thank you. I think too that really, what we do is kind of niche, but I do think a lot of this stuff translates across the board. So I think a lot of people that do run their own businesses, whether you're in the creative space or you're, whatever kind of experiences you're providing through your business, I think that you definitely have to value yourself. You definitely have to work with people that want to work within your processes, because if you're not the right fit for them at the beginning, when you lay those processes out, it's not going to work no matter what. And then I think another big thing that we're just kind of learning is the more reps you have, we talk about that, you get a feel for who you work best with. And I think that that's also really important. So not letting setbacks like this hold you back, like getting back out there. I mean, that afternoon, I went back to prospecting for clients. It's like we still have stuff in the pipeline and we still have people that we really do love working with, and don't let it be discouraging. You're still great at what you do. We have a lot of proof of that. but this wasn't the right fit.
Yeah, I think like we said before, like scars kind of tell the story, and so this is something that we wear. I don't want to say proudly, because obviously like it's not ideal. Like I wanted to see the finished product. I think I'm just always like curious, but at the same point in time, I'm more proud of how you judge someone by how they respond to something. Like I'm a big golfer, and more frequently than not, I don't play up, as well as I like to play, because golf is a very hard sport, and I'm far from professional or even amateur. And I made a rule to myself that I can never, how I end around, like the character and the attitude I end around with is more important than the score. And so even when I'm playing bad or something like that, it's like, okay, well, you still are in the game, because the game isn't the score. The game is your character and attitude at the end. And I found that kind of switch. So like with this, it's like, okay, well, our game is, this great game of business, and we're trying to accomplish something where we connect interesting people to interesting opportunities, and we hopefully inspire more people to pave their own path to their profession and do things in a way that is an authentic expression of who they are. Because I think that there's just more better people in the world, right? Because if you spend 50 or 60 hours doing something you fucking hate, then like I don't understand how you could be a good person, like happy. I'm sure you can still be a good person, but like you're not gonna be happy. And the way we responded, you know what I mean? We were obviously hurt. Took it, obviously it feels personal, but we didn't stop, our mission and our responsibilities to us, our as business partners, to individuals and to our families, didn't stop. Moving on, moving on. Like it stung a little bit, but moving on. Like put a band-aid on it, like keep going. And we've always said that, like, looking back, this would be something that we'll be proud of, not losing a six-figure client or getting fired, but we'll be proud of how we responded, what we learned, and the best lessons are earned. And this is a tough one to earn, I guess. But then, we did more in like the week and a half, because we had to like close everything out and wrap up all loose ends. But then in that week and a half, we've done so many moves that we've been delaying to make, because we quote unquote had the time. This project was taking up like 70 to 80% of our time. Well, you take that off, your schedule opens up. And like, what are we supposed to put in that schedule? We're like, well, all the stuff that we've been avoiding. And usually the things you're avoiding to do is the things you really should be doing. And it was right. And so I think looking back, I'm really proud of the way we handled it. And I don't really think there's anything we could have done to avoid this, to be honest with you. I know that's really naive, but I think this would have happened one way or another.
I agree.
I really do. Like, I just, like, even if we hired people and even if like the team was going to start, I just felt like there would be some reason to not do it. You know what I mean? I felt like there was always going to be something.
No,
so I'm
I
happy
agree.
it happened earlier than later in a way.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thank you for sitting down and kind of talking this through with me. Like Cody said, we've been able to work on some really cool things in the meantime. If you guys could see our guest list for the next couple weeks coming up, like we've got some really cool heavy hitters. So lots of path pavers. We're excited to bring them to you. If you guys want to follow us on socials, our Instagram is at creative_hiring. You can always check us out on creativehiring.com if you want to understand more of our process. And we do have the Creative Hiring Handbook available there as well. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.